I'm placing an order to sell short British pound at 132.94. Position opened 932.94. Short position.
Mr. Gostin, I think I need to put scope and scale in here and ask if we've lost it. We all know an individual story, an individual recovery. Mayor Giuliani, I believe, leaving the hospital yesterday, a tragic single death, and then we try to encompass 3,000 people in one day. How do you keep perspective in this pandemic?
Wow, what a great question. It's hard. It's just, you just step back and you think that this little microscopic organism in a matter of weeks and months, and now we're into it a year, has just literally taken over our lives. So many celebrations without that special person in the chair next to you. I think, right now we're just being glazed over by the numbers, but you're so right. Every single death is, somebody's dear loved one, and it's just massively tragic to see it all. But maybe we're going to be the beginning of the end, with the light at the end of the tunnel with these vaccines.
One of your acclaimed books, Power, Duty, Restraint. Let's go through the list and start with power. What is the power you request from the Biden administration?
Yeah, I think the Biden administration, first of all, is going to have the power of the purse. They're going to need Congress to get a lot of funding. They're going to need funding, not just a kind of recovery and just getting people back to work, small businesses back up and running, but they'll also need state and local health departments, and they'll also need it for, vaccine campaigns because a lot of Americans don't trust this vaccine, and we've got to overcome that and get enough people. We've got to get the jabs in people's arms because having a good vaccine isn't enough. We've got to get about 70% of our population vaccinated, and that's going to be a hard task.
All right, well, power, duty, and restraint. Let's go to duty. And the question is, what is the duty to vaccinate individuals after you get the first responders and residents at nursing homes? Who next? How should this be best rolled out to get the virus under the control the quickest?
Yeah, that seems to be the big question right now. In my view, what we need to do is prioritize the most disadvantaged. And that also has a good public health impact because, there are communities in this country, Black Americans, Indian Americans, others, that have had 4 times as many cases and deaths and hospitalizations as anyone else. Getting the vaccine to them, who, by the way, tend to distrust the vaccine a lot more than others, will be very, very important, not just for equity, but actually to kind of target the vaccine exactly where the illnesses and deaths are occurring. That's going to be really, really important. And we've got to ramp up production using the Defense Production Act. That's another duty to actually make sure that the supplies are not as scarce as they look like they're going to be.
All right, if we're going to keep going with this, let's go to restraint. And there is a question about employers and what they do in terms of mandating that their employees get vaccinated in order to come back to work. What's the law on that side? How do they deal with that aspect as they try to create a work yet effective workplace?
Yeah, the EEOC hasn't weighed in on this yet, but from what we know, they've said with the flu vaccine that employers can mandate it. Many hospitals, nursing homes, workplaces, universities do. I don't see any reason why that they wouldn't be able to do it for the COVID-19 vaccine. I think it's ethical because anyone is entitled to, take a risk with their own health. But employers are there to make sure that their customers are safe, their employees are safe. And I think at least having a COVID-19 vaccine program at the workplace, offering it to every single employee at the minimum is their ethical responsibility to keep everyone safe, because that's their job.
Professor, just before we let you go, an important question that many people have been asking me over the last few weeks. If we can vaccinate the most at risk in society, once we've achieved that, is there any reason to maintain the restrictions that have been introduced in countries like the United Kingdom, the United States, across Europe and elsewhere?
Do you mean the restrictions in terms of who can get the vaccine, or the restrictions in terms of
No, I mean the restrictions around social distancing, Professor, those kind of things.
Yeah, oh, that's a question I get asked all the time. You know, for now, I think even when the vaccine rolls out, we're going to continue to have to mask up and social distances. No question about it. There's still going to be a large reservoir of infection in the United States, the UK, and other places. What we need to do is wait until we're really sure that we virtually eliminated SARS-CoV-2 in the United States or Britain or wherever it is. That is, we need herd immunity. That's probably not going to happen until, maybe not till late summer or even into the fall.
Wow. Professor Gostin, we appreciate your time, sir. Thank you.
Sure.
From Georgetown University. That is part of the big debate right now, Tom. Do we just need to vaccinate the most at risk in society and then remove the restrictions? Or do we need to achieve what the professor is talking about, which is herd immunity, before we can do that?
My answer is to find science and talk to adults. And I just want to make clear, John, our team has been leading on this, starting with Peter Hotez, the people at Johns Hopkins over in London at Imperial, people like Professor Gostin has just been lights out, the clarity they've brought.
The pressure on the politicians, Tom, to remove those restrictions once the most at risk in society have been vaccinated will be immense.
Yep.
From New York and London, for our audience worldwide, an ECB news conference just around the corner and jobless claims in America, all right here on Bloomberg.
Well, the main instruments on board include a dual-frequency radar altimeter. And this is the primary instrument of the mission, and that's the one that's measuring sea surface height, significant wave height, and wind speed over the ocean. And from those measurements, we can actually have the superb measurements that we expect of sea level rise, but also the waves. The significant wave height, which is the top 1/3 of the waves, if you were to look at them in time.
Sea level rise is accelerating, and it is not geographically uniform. In some regions, the rate of rise is 2 to 3 times faster than the global mean. This means that in this region, the elevation since the beginning of the 90s is now nearly 30 centimeters, which is not negligible.
I'm placing a stop on profit for British pound at 132.92. Okay.
I think what we've seen during this period of time is that communicating via video is not a fad. We are using it in all aspects of our lives, for work, for learning, for communicating, for staying in touch.
From New York and London, for our audience worldwide, good morning to you all as we await the Lagarde news conference, the ECB president speaking in just a moment. Before we get there, I want to get to the data in the United States of America as we await jobless claims. The median estimate 725 with a number. Here's Michael McKee.
Well, John, it's kind of as expected, a big jump given the coronavirus lockdowns. We're at 853,000 for last week for initial jobless claims, much higher than the 712,000 initially reported. It's been revised up to 716,000. So no major change last week, but a huge change this week of an additional 137,000 jobless claims. When we look at the overall number of people who are receiving some kind of benefit, it's fallen to 19,043,000. That is good news, although that was 2 weeks ago. So that could move up again, given the fact that more people are losing their jobs. The other indicator out this morning that everybody's watching, I'll make this quick because I know that Madame Lagarde is starting. CPI up 0.2%. That's a tick higher than was forecast by economists. The core rate goes up 0.2, also a tick higher, leaves year-over-year CPI up 1 point.
Position closed on British pound at 132.92.
Make a lot of moves in the recent months because of the fact we're coming out of the pandemic and we've got a lot of comparisons that are higher, but we will see inflation start to move higher when we get into 2021 is the general bet.
Michael McKee, thank you so much. John Farrow, we want to get over to what's going on with ECB President Lagarde. What are you looking for, John, with this press conference?
Well, she's about to unveil the projections over in Frankfurt, Germany, and that's what everyone will be looking for. It's uncomfortable to see claims in America moving in the wrong direction. The ECB president unveiling a bigger package, 500 billion euros more of pandemic emergent purchase program and extending that into March 2022 as well. Let's cross over to Frankfurt, Germany and catch up with the ECB president.
We expect them to remain at their present or lower levels until we have seen the inflation outlook robustly converge to levels sufficiently close to but below 2% within our projection horizon, and such convergence has been consistently reflected in underlying inflation dynamic.